Hello and welcome to the Healthy Lifestyle Program Module 2, all about healthy eating. If this is your first time joining us, I am Natalie Lascano. I am the Wellness Coordinator with UF Communications and Work Life, and I am the presenter for this program. So our objectives for this module are to define healthy eating, introduce MyPlate and distinguish the different food groups, debunk some nutrition myths, and identify methods to support healthy eating habits. So there are a variety of ways to define healthy eating, and these definitions largely depend on the person, as diet is highly personalized to an individual's needs. Essentially, however, healthy eating consists of what you eat, fruits, vegetables, proteins, etc., and how you eat, who you eat with, what time you eat, and how much you eat. Being mindful of when you are eating, not just what you are eating, can help you maintain or lose weight, help you feel fuller for longer, and help you appreciate the food you are eating more as opposed to eating while watching a TV show or on the go. So you may be familiar with some of these charts, which attempted to model what healthy eating looks like. So our older models, which are this one on the black poster, divided fruits and vegetables into 3 different categories and even combined some vegetables with dairy products. My pyramid is a more recent model of healthy eating that put less emphasis on the amounts of each food group consumed and more emphasis on combining healthy eating with physical activity for a healthy lifestyle. Essentially, this shows how nutrition recommendations have changed with new scientific evidence and changing national health priorities. So the most recent attempt to model healthy eating is MyPlate, which was created by the USDA, or the U.S. Department of Agriculture. You can learn more about these guidelines at choosemyplate.gov. But essentially, this is a visual depiction of what the guidelines are. And the guidelines are basically to vary your vegetables, focus on whole fruit, eat whole grains, or eat grains, primarily whole grains, vary your proteins between lean and vegetarian, and choose low-fat milk or cheese. So basically, this is divided into 5 food groups: fruits, vegetables, grains, proteins, and dairy. You should have more, half of your plate should be fruits and vegetables, that being more vegetables than fruits. And then your other half of your plate should be pretty evenly divided between grains and protein, and then you should have some dairy in your diet as well. However, there is another related model, which is the healthy eating plate, which comes from the Harvard Medical School. The healthy eating plate is based exclusively on the best available science and was not subjected to political or commercial pressures from food industry lobbyists, which has been a criticism of the USDA MyPlate. And so I am more partial to this healthy eating plate, but the general idea between both of these and healthy eating in general is to eat lots of fruits and vegetables, eat whole grains, and eat healthy proteins. But I will point out some of the differences between the 2 models. So the biggest differences include the larger serving size for vegetables. So you see that vegetables has an even larger portion of this half plate than on the MyPlate. This model also makes a specific recommendation for prioritizing whole grains and really limiting refined grains, whereas MyPlate just stressed at least half of your grain should be whole grains. This one says basically only prioritize whole grains. Another major difference is that dairy has been completely removed from this model, and it has instead been replaced with water. So basically making a recommendation to drink more water. And this model also includes healthy oils, not necessarily as a food group, but as an essential part of our diet nonetheless. And this model also recommends staying active here in the lower corner. So now we'll take a look at what the food groups are that were included in MyPlate, as well as that healthy eating plate from the Harvard Medical School. And as with all foods, there are some options which are healthier than others or that provide different benefits as opposed to others. So we'll go through each food group and highlight some healthy options and make some suggestions for options that should be limited, as well as debunk a myth related with each of the food groups. So first up is fruits. And so it is recommended that we eat 1 to 2 cups of fruits daily. These fruits may be fresh, canned, frozen, or dried, and they may be whole, cut up, or pureed, however you choose to consume them. Fruits are naturally low in fat, sodium, and calories, but they are nutrient rich and they are full of vitamins and fiber. So they're a great way to get the vitamins and minerals that we need to survive. So one common myth with fruits is that they are unhealthy because they are high in sugar. So while this is true, fruits do have a higher level of sugar than other food groups, which is why their serving recommendation is proportionally less than other groups. This does not mean that they are unhealthy. The sugar found naturally in fruits is not the same as added sugars that are artificially incorporated into prepackaged foods, which should be avoided. Naturally occurring sugars in fruit are good for you and are a great source of energy that your body can access quickly. Certain fruits are also high in water content, such as watermelons, and so they can help to keep you hydrated throughout the day. So the next time you're experiencing an afternoon slump in energy, you can try reaching for an apple or a banana instead of making another cup of coffee. Next up are vegetables, where it's recommended that we get 2 to 3 cups of vegetables daily. And these vegetables can be raw or cooked, fresh, frozen, canned or dried, dehydrated, and they can be whole, cut up, or mashed. Again, just however you like to enjoy them. And you should incorporate a variety as well as both raw and cooked vegetables into your diet. And so there are 4 main types of vegetables that you should be prioritizing in your diet. These are dark green vegetables, which have a lot of protein. There are starchy vegetables, such as potatoes, which provide carbohydrates. There are red, orange, and other colorful vegetables, such as bell peppers, which provide a lot of vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients, which is why you may have heard people say that you should eat a rainbow. That's because the different colors in fruits and vegetables basically provide different vitamins and minerals and other nutrients. And finally, there's peas and beans, which also provide a lot of protein. So the myth with vegetables is that you may have heard that frozen vegetables are not as nutritious as fresh vegetables. And this is totally a myth. Frozen vegetables may actually be more nutritious than those found in the fresh aisles if they were frozen right after harvest, which is when they are highest in nutritional value. Frozen vegetables are often also cheaper than fresh vegetables, and they obviously last longer, so you never feel bad about picking up a few bags of frozen veggies when you're at the grocery store. And so although eating 4 to 5 total servings of fruits and vegetables a day may sound like a lot, especially if you aren't used to eating them, remember that you don't have to eat all of your vegetables and fruits in one go, in one serving. Instead, try spreading them out throughout the day by maybe having berries with your breakfast, bell peppers and hummus with your lunch, a fruit smoothie for an after-work snack, and roasted carrots with your dinner. Next are grains, which it is recommended that we get 6 to 8 ounces of grains daily. And just as a note with these recommendations are kind of generalized, but for your specific situation, you may need more vegetables than fruits. You may need less grains. You may need more protein. It's really highly dependent on your situation and your specific needs. The grains refer to any food made from wheat, rice, oats, cornmeal, barley, or any other type of cereal grain. And it is important that we prioritize whole grains, which can include rolled oats for oatmeal, popcorn, though hold off on the butter, brown rice, bulgur, and whole wheat flour. And then the examples of refined grains that we should kind of limit and not eat as much of is white rice, white bread, white flour, corn grits, things like that. And so what's the difference between refined and whole grains? So whole grains contain the entire grain kernel, which means they still have all the properties of the grain when it was harvested, so it has more minerals, more nutrients, more vitamins, things like that. Whereas refined grains are processed so that the bran and germ are removed, which are parts of the grain. However, they may be enriched with B vitamins and iron, so if you are going to reach for a refined grain, maybe see if it is fortified with those vitamins and minerals. And so you can easily incorporate more whole grains into your diet by switching out your common kitchen staples for more for whole wheat alternatives. So this could include whole wheat sandwich bread and bagels, whole wheat tortillas, whole grain pastas, but do make sure to check the ingredient list on beneath the nutrition label to verify that whole grains were used in that product. And this is actually the myth related with grains, is that all foods with whole grain or whole wheat labels actually have whole grains or wheat in them. This label is not regulated, which means that companies can add it to any product, regardless of if that product actually includes it or not. So one good rule of thumb is that products that actually contain whole grains or whole wheat will list these as the first ingredient. They won't list something else as the first ingredient. And if you don't like the whole grain or whole wheat alternative for whatever reason, check to see if the refined grain version you buy, again, is fortified with those B vitamins or iron by reading the nutrition label section for these items. Always check the nutrition label and the ingredients. All right, so now moving on to protein, it is recommended that we get 5.5 to 6.5 ounces of protein daily. And most Americans do eat enough food from this group, but we should make it a priority to include leaner and more varied proteins, such as 8 ounces of fish a week. So red meat is a great source of protein and essential B vitamins, zinc, and iron, but red meat is also high in fat, so it's best to limit red meat to 2 to 3 servings a week. Chicken, on the other hand, provides many of the same benefits, but is lower in fat and calories. So it's a better alternative to red meat. Fish is also an excellent source of protein and provides nutrients such as omega fatty acids and magnesium, which are important to our health and not found in as high of quantities in other foods. However, none of these sources of protein provide fiber, which can be found in leafy vegetables and beans that are also great sources of protein. And if you are vegetarian, your options for protein includes beans and peas, and nuts and seeds, and soy products such as tofu. And the myth with protein is that you can't get enough protein on a plant-based diet. In reality, different sources of protein provide different types of amino acids, all of which are essential to our muscle synthesis, bone and joint health, hormone balance, and cholesterol levels. These amino acids really help to basically run our entire body. So plant-based proteins are actually just as important as animal-based proteins, and you should incorporate them into your diet, whether you're vegetarian, vegan, a carnivore, whatever it is you are. You should always have some plant-based proteins in your diet. However, those on a plant-based diet should consider creating a dietary plan that incorporates proteins from a variety of sources throughout the day, such as lentils, nuts, and tofu. Again, this is just to make sure that you're getting all the amino acids that you need. So next we will talk about fats, and the recommendation for fats is to get 4 to 7 tablespoons of fat daily. So fats kind of get a bad reputation, but they actually provide more calories per gram, being 9 calories per gram, than all other macronutrients, which are carbohydrates and proteins, which makes them an excellent energy source. Fats are also important in helping our bodies absorb vitamins, and they're amazing for our brain health. They help us to avoid Alzheimer's and dementia. So there are 2 different types of fats. There are saturated versus unsaturated fats. So the saturated fats are the ones that are solid at room temperature, such as butter. There are also unsaturated fats, which are liquid at room temperature, such as olive oil. And our other sources of fat include avocados, fish, eggs, dark chocolate, nuts, and seeds. And eating more fats can actually help us to feel fuller for longer, as they are the last macronutrient to be used up by the body, which means that they stay in the digestive tract longer, and they help you, um, they basically keep you fuller for longer. And so the myth with fats, which is very common and very rampant, is that saturated fats are always bad for you. And up until recently, saturated fats were considered to increase the risk of heart disease by raising our LDL, or low density lipoprotein, our bad cholesterol. However, recent research has really pushed back on that notion that LDL cholesterol is completely bad for you. And the link between saturated fat and heart disease has come under some contention. So the reality is likely that you need saturated fats as much as unsaturated fats, though you should definitely still prioritize unsaturated fats. And the only fat you should absolutely avoid is trans fat, but this has been banned in the US, so there's no need to panic. All right, and then we move on to dairy, and I have included an asterisk on this food group because there is a lot of debate about whether dairy is necessarily a required food group to have in your diet. And it is one of the components on which the MyPlate and Healthy Eating Plate differ. Of course, if you are lactose intolerant, you can't have dairy. So saying it's a necessary part of a healthy diet is kind of controversial. But in general, dairy is a good source of vitamin D, calcium, and potassium. But these nutrients are also found in other sources. So again, if you have a dairy intolerance, you can supplement these nutrients from elsewhere. And for everyone who does not have a dairy intolerance, you should be fine having a couple servings of dairy daily. The recommendation is 2 to 3 cups per day, but you should try to prioritize low sugar options such as yogurt as opposed to ice cream. And again, if you have a dairy intolerance, there are calcium fortified alternatives such as soy milk. I believe almond milk also has some calcium fortified options. And so the myth with dairy is that you may have heard that milk from cows not treated with RBST is healthier. You may have heard that RBST in cow's milk is less healthy and could even cause cancer. So basically, RBST is the commercially produced version of a naturally produced hormone that is created by the pituitary glands of cows. Dairy-producing cows are sometimes injected with RBST to increase dairy production, but its opponents have said that its use that it remains in milk and harms human health. However, this is a myth. 90% of RBST hormone is removed from milk during pasteurization, and the remaining 10% are entirely digested by the human gut into inactive byproducts, making milk from both treated and untreated cows nearly identical. So don't worry too much if you can't find milk at the grocery store that says that it wasn't treated with RBST. It's perfectly fine to drink, and you'll be perfectly fine. All right, so now moving into added sugar and hydration. So eating too much sugar has been linked to obesity, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, some cancers, and tooth decay. And so it's important to make the distinction between sugars that are naturally found in foods like fruit and sugars added to processed foods. Sugars found naturally in fruits and vegetables, like I said earlier, are not harmful to our health in large part. Of course, if you eat a diet of only apples, you're going to run into some problems. But added sugars, on the other hand, are added to foods such as sodas, sweets, and other snack foods, rather than being naturally found in them. And that extra sweet taste that we get comes from sucrose, which is regular sugar, or high fructose corn syrup, which is an artificial sweetener. And so our added sugar limits are 150 calories or 38 grams or 9 teaspoons per day for men, and then 100 calories or 25 grams or 6 teaspoons per day for women. And so again, these are the sugars that we should make an effort to limit in our diet or avoid entirely. The American Heart Association makes these recommendations that I just listed, and in order to reduce the amount of added sugar you take in each day. Look for the added sugar section on a nutrition label when picking up a product at the grocery store and compare it to the similar products around it. And if you feel that something is too high in added sugar, try looking for a natural alternative. For example, if you're used to snacking on M&Ms in the afternoon, try switching them out for pomegranate seeds. And then the sugar you add to your morning coffee and tea also counts as added sugar, so try to limit that as well. One thing you can do, and this will sound a little odd, but it has been proven in research to work, is try using a fork or some other utensil that has holes or prongs or is slotted in some way to add sugar to your coffee. And this has been shown to limit the amount of sugar you add to your coffee because you likely won't waste time trying to expend the extra effort to get the same amount of sugar using a fork as you'd usually get with a spoon. You could also limit your coffee to having only creamer instead of creamer and sugar, as creamers, especially flavored ones, typically already have a lot of added sugar in them. And then getting a lot of water is also important for our health. Water helps to lubricate joints, prevent acne, reduce brain fog, among many other benefits. You cannot survive without water, and there's a reason for it. But you shouldn't wait to feel thirsty to drink enough water, as thirst is a sign that you are already dehydrated and already experiencing the effects of dehydration. So the current National Academies of Medicine recommendation is around 131 ounces for men and 95 ounces for women. But again, this varies depending on your activity level and just your personal needs and also on where you live. And this also refers to your overall fluid intake per day, including anything you eat or drink that contains water. Again, like I said earlier, a lot of fruits are high in water, so that also adds to your hydration count for the day. The one thing you can try to do to increase the amount of water you drink is to try stacking the habit of drinking water with other habits you have that already exist. So for example, try taking a sip of water every time a commercial comes on during your nighttime news, or drinking a full glass of water before your morning coffee. All right, so now moving into how we eat, specifically in relation to serving sizes, there is a difference between serving sizes and portion sizes. So serving sizes are used on nutrition labels to delineate the recommended amount of a food you should eat, as well as the macronutrient and micronutrient amount associated with that serving size. Whereas portions are the amount you choose to serve yourself for each food. And as shown as on this diagram here, your hand is actually a great tool to use in determining portion sizes for each food group for yourself. So the front of your fist is about half a cup, which is about how much cooked vegetables, diced fruit, or cooked pasta you should be having. Your palm is about 3 to 4 ounces, which can help you figure out how many salty snacks, lean protein, and whole grains you should be eating. And the tip of your finger from the last knuckle to the very tip is about 1 teaspoon, and it refers to how much oil, butter, margarine, or your daily salt intake that you should be having. The length of your thumb is about 2 tablespoons and is for condiments and dressings or for nut butters. And then about 1 cup is a fist. The side view of your fist, and that would be about how many leafy greens, soups, and raw vegetables you should have. And so some tips to control portion sizes include using smaller dinnerware. That'll just automatically make you serve yourself less, as you can see in this picture. You can also use your plate as a portion guide, so kind of following that My Plate diagram from earlier. And again, using your hands as a serving guide. You can also ask for a half portion when eating out at a restaurant. You can also start your meals with a glass of water, which will just naturally make you feel fuller, so you eat less. Also take it slowly when you're eating. Eating too fast will often cause you to overeat. And also don't eat straight from the container. For example, if you have a bag of chips, don't eat the chips directly from the bag. Pour some out into a separate bowl and then put the bag away. You can also use a food diary to track when and how much you're eating and what you're eating. But most importantly, eat mindfully. Eating mindfully is the most important thing you can do to control portion sizes and really just enjoy your food in general. Mindful eating means that you are not watching TV or otherwise distracted when you're eating. It means you are paying attention to how the food tastes, how it feels in your stomach or in your hands, how it smells and looks, and who you are eating with. Food is meant to be a social experience that connects people, so try eating with your family, friends, or roommates. And eating mindfully also helps you to slow down while you're eating, so you're better able to notice the point where you feel satiated or full. So you can stop eating before you overeat and maybe feel sick or nauseous. And getting into the practice of mindful eating also means that when it's not mealtime, you're better able to tell if you're hungry or just having a craving out of boredom because you're more connected with your body and more aware of the feelings of hunger and fullness. So going along with that, there are two different types of hunger. So there's physical hunger and psychological hunger. And so physical hunger is those actual physical signals from your body letting you know that it's time to eat. And you're going to experience stomach pangs, an empty feeling in the stomach, lightheadedness, and a slight headache if you're really hungry. Whereas psychological hunger is just a craving that can be caused by many cues. So it could be that the food smells good or looks good. It could be emotions. It could just be that you're driving home and you pass a McDonald's, and then suddenly you feel hungry when a moment before you felt perfectly fine. And so some food cues that lead us to that psychological hunger rather than that physical hunger are environmental. So again, like advertisements, activities, particular places, holidays, etc. Social cues such as family and friends, parties and gatherings, a business event. It can also be external cues like that sight and smell, the access. If the food's right in front of you, you're going to be more likely to eat it even if you're not hungry. Availability, and then internal cues such as your stress, emotions, boredom, and fatigue. So coping with these cues, so we're not just eating out of a psychological need for hunger, but really a physical need for hunger. So first, you want to, of course, identify the type of hunger. Are you actually hungry? Ask yourself, was I just hungry a moment before, or am I just hungry now because something cued me into the availability of food? And if it is physical hunger, have a snack, have a healthy snack, have a meal if you're that hungry. And if there's more than 1 hour, and yeah, don't limit yourself just because it's physical hunger. If it's physical hunger, that is your body telling you that you need to eat. So just go ahead and have a snack or eat a meal. If it's psychological hunger, identify the trigger that is cueing you to eat, and then make a plan to overcome the cue and practice it. So if you find that you eat out of boredom, so when you have nothing to do, you suddenly think you should go get a chocolate bar from the kitchen, find something else to do. If you like to read, put your book out somewhere where it's highly noticeable to you. So when you feel that psychological craving for that chocolate bar, you can instead look at your book and pick that up instead of getting a chocolate bar out of boredom. All right, so our take-home message for this module is that there are MyPlate recommendations that act as a guide for healthy eating in terms of what to eat and how much of it to eat. Incorporating the appropriate amounts of all food groups can lead to health benefits such as decreased risk of heart disease. And there is a difference between a serving and a portion, and your hand can act as a guide to serving sizes when you are in doubt. Eating mindfully is also a great way to stay in control of how much and when you eat. And hunger is both physical and psychological, so it's important to recognize the difference in order to control our eating. All right, in our next module, we will talk about energy balance, but until then, try creating some new SMART goals related to healthy eating based on what you learned in this module and the previous one. And thank you, and see you in the next one.